And we are looking at chart patterns. So in the last lesson we looked at trend lines, and those trend lines helped us look at what direction the stock is going, if it's in a channel or if we're seeing a trend reversal. Today we are looking at specific patterns that are going to help us decide whether it's a buy, sell, or hold at the specific moment. So patterns, using trend lines to identify patterns that could signal future movements. We're using the same principles we learned about trend lines, and we're just applying them to specific patterns that we're going to keep an eye out for. So the first pattern, I highlighted this in one of the last videos, but it is consolidation. Now this is a completely different stock with almost the same pattern. Lululemon Athletica in 2018, we looked at it for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months where it was pretty much in consolidation the entire time, bouncing up and down within a specific price range of about $57.5 to $65. It was going up and down for several months before finally breaking out with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positive days before experiencing about 20% to 30% growth over the next 30 trading days. So significant breakout, and that was because we spent so much time within consolidation. If you look at this stock, we tested the top of the consolidation pattern 1, almost 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times was the breakout. So we tested it multiple times. Same thing with the bottom of it. 1, 2, 3, 4 times we tested the support at the bottom of this consolidation pattern. So we condensed for a very long time. We finally had a breakout, and we had a significant return when it did break out. Very great pattern to see, and definitely something you want to keep your eyes out for. However, it does take some monitoring over time to find that right buy-in spot. Now, triangles is another one. We looked at this one when we looked at Tesla in a previous video, but this one is pretty big, and it's a really telltale sign that something big is about to happen. So here's just a simple diagram of what we can see. A symmetrical triangle basically means it goes right to the side horizontally. Ascending mean it kind of points up, and descending mean it kind of points down. Here is an example of one from Tesla Inc. in 2015 and 2016. We can see a clear trend line going down, and we can see 2 spots on the bottom where the price touched a price target of about $185 to $183. It bounced back up, and it did it again in January, and it did it again in April. So we've clearly established support at that $185 price level, and we're seeing the price slowly trickle down there, and it bouncing in between. So we're seeing a descending triangle there. In this case, we saw a breakout to the bullish side. We saw a breakout over $75 from a basically starting point of $185. So really good returns on it, really good metrics, and all you had to do is keep an eye on this and see what pattern was actually going on. So the next one we're going to look at is a double peak. This can go up or down. In this case, it's going down. We're looking at Tesla Inc., and we can see the stock price in a completely different example hit the bottom at around $180 2 different times. So this is in 2014, and then again in 2015. We can see it hitting the bottom and then moving up from there. We can see it on the other side, where we can see the Dow Jones Industrial rising up to 2650 on 2 separate occasions before falling almost 20% down to 2150 just in December of 2019. So a really drastic fall after double peaking at the 2650 mark twice, and then a huge drastic fall down over 20%. So that was a scary moment back in the day. We did recover from that, but we did have a full almost 20% drop in the Dow Jones Industrial. And the sign, the recognition, the hey, something's going to happen here happened just 3 months earlier when we had a double top at the 26.5 mark. So the next pattern we're going to look at is called the head and shoulders. Now this one's a little bit trickier to pick out, but what it involves is one peak, a bigger peak, and then another peak that isn't quite as big. Basically, the idea here is this is the sign of a trend reversal. It means that we are no longer seeing higher and higher peaks in the price. We're starting to see a higher peak and then a trend reversal with a lower peak. And if we see another lower peak, it could be confirmation of the head and shoulders pattern. So basically here what we're looking for is a stock that's moving up and then a lower peak afterwards, if we see that as a head and shoulders, it could be a telltale sign that the stock's about to go down. What does this look like in practice? Well, we found Costco wholesale in 2016. This was a pretty clear head and shoulders. We had a clear trajectory where the stock was moving in a bullish pattern upwards. We have the first shoulder established in November around 23rd, and then we can see the peak on December 14th where the stock rose to $155. We can see another basically little smaller peak that didn't quite go as high, only went to $150. So that was basically the height of the two shoulders. That original high of 155, that was the head, and now we can still see the stock starting to trend down all the way down to $130. So if you recognize this pattern and you realize this was a head and shoulders back in the time, this would have been a great telltale sign that if you owned Costco, it was time to get out. So there's lots of patterns that you can learn. Basically what it is though is using the trend lines that we learned in one of the previous lessons to basically put together these patterns that we can start to identify as soon as they're made. So here's some that are listed here: the rectangle, the pennant, the flag. They're basically different versions of drawing the trend lines and connecting them to try and decide, is this stock going to go up or down? Lots of different opportunities. Again, none of them are perfect, but they can help give you indicators and signs as to which way it's going to go. So in summary, patterns are the specific movements that can indicate a future trend. We identify them using trend lines that we talked about. They're not always perfect or exact. You could have the perfect shape lining up, the perfect triangle going, and if your company releases the wrong results, has a big instant, or the global markets change, things can change not in your favor and outside of that trend pretty easily. There's also lots of patterns for you to identify and try and pick up on. There's long patterns that we've looked at today. There's also indicators and patterns where those candle charts can be on very short time frames and very short candle patterns, even 2 or 3 candle patterns. So there's lots of different ways to look at it. These are just some of the main ones that I wanted to highlight on in this course so that you're aware of them. You can always deep dive into any of the topics that I'm talking about and go a whole lot further though. So this is just kind of the introduction to all of these major topics so that you have a basic understanding of how to invest when you make those first trades. Thanks for joining.